After my biological father chose to replace me with his new family, even going as far as turning my childhood bedroom into a closet, I made the decision to only refer to my stepdad as Dad from now on. My connection with my father was very strong. My parents separated when I was a baby, but I spent my weekdays with my mother and weekends with my father. My dad and I were inseparable, like the best of friends, and we had a simple weekend routine. We'd always pick out 5 red box movies to watch, go fishing, play soccer, and bike to a small, hidden playground near the zoo. I was also accustomed to my father having a string of new girlfriends, none of whom lasted more than a couple of weeks. The only one who stayed for a longer period, a woman I genuinely liked and who was around for 2 years, left my father when I was 10. Still, my bond with my dad remained unchanged until I turned 12 and he met his current wife. This woman had 2 children, one older and one younger than me. They moved into my dad's apartment after just 2 weeks. My room was already small, but my narrow mattress and 3 little plastic drawers were pushed into a corner to make room for his daughter's bunk bed and dresser. Before I knew it, they began storing my bed in a closet until I came to visit, and often they'd simply forget to get it out at all. When my dad moved into a larger house, his older stepdaughter got her own room, while I had to share one with the younger stepdaughter. Each weekend, my 3 small drawers quickly became just one because the younger stepdaughter wanted the other 2 for her toys. Gradually, I started visiting my father less and less. Everything took an especially negative turn when my father's girlfriend became pregnant. They married a year later, and I didn't even know about their marriage for a whole month because he never told me. I also didn't find out my baby half-sister was born until weeks after she arrived home from the hospital. To keep his new family happy, he began showering them with gifts and stopped paying child support for my mother and me. His wife is unemployed and seems to only care about money, and she cooks, cleans, and shops. My dad is funding his older stepdaughter's college education, and the younger stepdaughter perfectly embodies a spoiled 10-year-old Sephora enthusiast. As for my half-sister, she's still a toddler, but is clearly pampered and doesn't tolerate hearing the word no. The routine I once shared with my father is now gone. Regarding my stepfather, he has been with my mom since I was 5. Apparently, though I don't recall it, I once called him Dad, and because of that, my biological father told me I shouldn't love that man like a dad since he wasn't truly my father. That's supposedly why I started acting as though I disliked my stepfather. I never knew I felt that way about him, as he had always been good to me, and over the last few years, I felt much closer to him. He feels like the father my biological father should strive to be. Over time, my biological father has begun treating me differently. He rants to me about his political views and conspiracy theories about aliens and such. He also boasts about his new business and his new family. If I ever try to share anything with him, he gets annoyed and silences me before continuing with his own stories. It's as if he now sees me as a friend rather than his own daughter. Also, during these last few years, I discovered the real reason he and my mother divorced wasn't that they were incompatible, but because my father cheated on my mother while visiting his family in Canada. I'm now 15 and have become a completely different person than the one my biological father remembers. I no longer enjoy the beach or soccer, and I now love music, reading, and writing. I've written and published 2 books since 2022 and am currently working on the 3rd in my series. My stepfather supports my aspirations and loves me so much that he brags about me to friends and family and calls me his daughter. My stepfather has a biological daughter whom I love like a true sister, but she lives up north with her boyfriend, and I don't see her often. Even so, I love them more than I love my biological father and half-sister, to whom I'm actually related. My dad blames me for never calling, though given how he's treated me lately, I don't feel I owe him that. I also go months at a time without visiting him now because I no longer feel comfortable in that house, especially since the bed I sleep on there is literally considered their guest bed. In my biological father's house, I am a guest. Because of all this, I resent my dad. I haven't told anyone about this, so no one is calling me a jerk, but I'm wondering if I am because my dad is in love with his new family, and I'm wondering if it's a bad thing that I'm not happy for him. Update 1. Since my initial post, I've only visited my father's house once, and it's clear I truly am nothing more than an uncomfortable guest there. I should start by saying that every time I spend a few months without going to his house, my dad tries to act completely innocent and calls me on Fridays to ask when he should pick me up. I never answer because he always calls when I'm in class or busy studying, so he'll call my mom. But because he never asks me in advance, I tend to have plans on weekends with my cousins, friends, or simply to work on my writing, as I'm still working on my third book, and it requires a lot of focus that I can't get in his house. Actually, I'm just going to call him Eric now. He honestly hasn't been as much of a father figure to me as my stepfather has. Anyway, it was my mom who decided. I would go over to Eric's house, despite the fact that he hasn't paid child support in over 2 years now, and I dislike going to his house. My mom says I should just visit from time to time to keep him from getting the court involved. She confuses me sometimes, saying he's a deadbeat, but also sometimes saying he's my loving dad who deserves my respect. However, under the circumstances, I'm fairly certain nothing would be different since I never visit him, and he doesn't pay child support anyway. In fact, one Christmas, he bought a bunch of new gifts for his family and wrapped them beautifully. But weeks before Christmas when I was visiting, he drove to Walmart so his wife could get groceries, and he handed me $200, saying, "Merry Christmas. Buy yourself something, and the rest can be child support or whatever." I bought 2 books, but the rest of the money that was supposedly child support was nowhere near the amount he owed. I've told my mom I would be happier if he lost custody of me and my stepfather adopted me, but she thinks that's too extreme and says, "He's still your dad. He deserves your respect and love." Now, about the weekend I visited him. From the minute Eric picked me up, all he talked about was his new family. He talked about the older stepdaughter and her boyfriend, the younger stepdaughter and her shopping habits, and my half-sister, who can now talk a little bit. I stayed quiet the whole ride until he asked me a question about my school, and when I answered, he got frustrated and launched into a conspiracy theory rant. I tuned him out for the rest of the drive after that. The rest of the weekend wasn't any better. The older stepdaughter did what she always does when I visit and locked herself in her room, only coming out when I left the house or when I was in the bathroom so she wouldn't have to talk to me. The younger stepdaughter had a friend over, and her friend had her things tossed on my bed and was sitting on it because it's the bed she sleeps in when she has sleepovers. Eric's wife did a poor job of hiding how bothered she was by me visiting. More than once, she was completely shocked I was there because Eric hadn't told her, so she couldn't object. Also, most of the weekend consisted of Eric taking me and my half-sister to a playground so she could run around with her friends, and I sat on a bench to read. But I didn't have much time to myself since Eric kept leaving and telling me to keep an eye on my half-sister, who is a wild and fussy kid. I am not a babysitter, and while I am good with children, that does not mean I enjoy putting my own time aside to look after them when they're not my responsibility. I had to spend 2 days in either pure chaos or discomfort, and I had to talk with my mom about not wanting to go over there anymore. She said that's fine and she won't force me to go anymore, but since she said that before, I don't believe her. I don't have anyone to truly talk to about this, and this whole situation is stressing me out because I don't remember my dad ever being as happy as he is now, and I still sometimes feel like I should be happy for him. I don't know what to do, and any advice on anything I could do would be helpful. Everyone who's commented on my last post so far has said I'm not the jerk and that Eric isn't acting the way a dad should, but he still reaches out from time to time and says I'm his baby girl who he loves. Honestly, I almost cry whenever he says that because it reminds me of how we used to be. Am I overthinking all of this or overreacting? What should I do? Am I the jerk here because I'm not happy for my dad? You should tell your mom the more she forces you to go to your dad's, the more it's going to ruin your relationship with her, as she's not listening to what you want and how you feel. You should also tell her you no longer trust what she says, as she has told you before that she will no longer force you into going, but she does it anyway. If you can't talk to your mom, have a one-on-one chat with your stepfather and see if he can help when it comes to your mom. Update 2. Hello everyone. It's only been a couple of days since my last post. Since then, I've taken the advice most of you gave me and talked to my mom about how I don't want to keep being forced by her to visit Eric, my sperm donor, as most of you referred to him. Long story short, I'm not 100% sure she won't continue to send me over to Eric's house, but she did end up sending him long texts chewing him out for not treating me right and telling him to step up and pay his child support. He didn't answer her, though, so I followed some other advice and wrote him a long text myself that detailed how I felt about his treatment of me the last few years. The thing is, as soon as I sent that text, He called me to yell at me and called me spoiled and overdramatic. He said it's my fault we don't have a relationship since I never visit or talk to him anymore. And because I mentioned the unpaid child support, he said that I was only reaching out to him for money. I nearly cried during that phone call and ended up just hanging up on him. He sent some angry texts to my mother as well, but later that day, he left a voicemail on my phone saying, "Money is kind of tight for me right now. I'm completely broke. You know I love you, right?" The thing is, I know that's a lie because I'm always seeing my younger stepsister make TikTok videos showing off the Sephora and other expensive stuff he buys her all the time. I think I'm done trying. Some of you suggested asking my stepfather for help. I wish I could, but when I asked my mom again if he could adopt me, she said something that absolutely crushed me. Apparently, my stepfather himself said he doesn't feel like he should adopt me. My stepfather is a very kind and sympathetic man, but he's also extremely unconfrontational and thinks it would be like a slap in the face to Eric if he adopted me. Also, because I noticed some confusion about this in the comments on my last update, the reason my parents divorced was because he cheated, but it wasn't with his current wife. My parents split up when I was still basically an infant, and Eric lived in Canada where he jumped from girlfriend to girlfriend there before he moved down here and continued to jump from girlfriend to girlfriend. When I was 12, he met and impregnated his wife, Alejandra, and married her without telling me until a month after their courthouse wedding. Also, some of you asked how old I am. I am 15. It feels ridiculous that I have this stress on me at my age, and I can't really talk to anyone about it. I can't talk to my stepfather because he's always working, and I'm only ever with him when my mom is there too. And I don't like talking to her because she always tells me that I'm too young to truly feel how I feel. The last time I tried to discuss my mental health with my mom, I asked her if I could start going to therapy, and she said that therapists are dumb and that I can just talk to her or pray to God if anything is wrong. I'm not super religious, and talking to her about anything serious makes me deeply uncomfortable. It's not that I don't love her, since she is my mom after all, but she's pretty intense and intimidating. My dad has not reached out to me again since his voicemail. Frankly, I don't want to even think about him for a long while now. If he suddenly realizes how badly he screwed up with me and apologizes, then maybe I'll try to rebuild our relationship. As for my stepfather, he may not want to adopt me, but he still calls me his daughter, never just his stepdaughter, and I truly feel loved by him. I love his parents like they're my own grandparents, and his whole family is so warm and loving. I might make another update if anything else happens, but for now, I'm just going to focus on school and my books. Maybe now that I understand that Eric really doesn't care that much about me anymore, I can finally focus on finishing my third book. I dedicated my first book to him, and I honestly don't regret it. I dedicated that book to the dad he used to be. It's not like he'll ever read that book since he doesn't think it's smart that I want to be a writer, but I don't care. I'm done. Update 3. There were a lot of people asking similar questions, and it was all a bit overwhelming, so I didn't respond to any of them directly, but I will answer those questions here before I get on to the actual reason for this update. A lot of you were saying that I should talk to a school counselor or something. The thing is that I do virtual homeschooling, and my mom works from home a lot, so I'm honestly just a bit too scared to try that. Plus, even if I did talk to my counselor without my mom being around to hear, I really don't trust any adults to keep these kinds of things to themselves. I know that sounds a bit dumb and paranoid, but it's really just how my brain thinks. A lot of you also said that I should bring up the therapy thing with my mom again, but I know for a fact it won't work. My mom really doesn't believe in therapy and believes that praying to God or having her preach about the Bible to me will solve everything. As for my stepfather, I love the guy like a real father, and I see him as my true dad, even if he doesn't want to adopt me. But he really is no help with the therapy issue either, because he always just agrees with whatever my mom says to avoid arguments. But I'm doing fine right now, though, and I honestly think things are going to start getting better. And I think this because I'm pretty sure my mom is finally going to file for sole custody and court-ordered child support. One thing I guess I should have made clear is that my parents sorted out their custody and child support agreement amongst themselves when they divorced. The agreement is that I spend weekends with my dad, and he pays my mom $100 per week. I'm pretty sure my dad only stuck to that agreement to keep himself looking good until he could finish his U.S. legalization process since he used to be an immigrant from Canada. Once he was legalized, he stopped paying child support and began spoiling his new family. Anyway, I went to my dad's house last weekend. This time my mom didn't force me, and I actually decided I wanted to go because I wanted to give my dad one last chance. He picked me up from my mom's house, and we didn't get down the street before we were fighting. I was excitedly telling him about a business idea I had where I can make book boxes and sell books with DIY necklaces and hand-painted bookmarks that match book covers. And he was telling me my idea was stupid and unprofitable and a waste of money and time. It was an hour-long drive to his house, and he was getting political or angry over every little thing I said. When I told him I was thinking about applying to colleges like Harvard or University of Chicago in the future, he began to yell about all the dangerous Cuban and Mexican immigrants in Chicago and began saying that Harvard is a waste of time since it's just as good as any other college, but rich people go there, which is why it's so famous. I ended up yelling at him that he can't act so high and mighty over non-white immigrants because he was also an immigrant not too long ago. Also, I never understand why it is my dad is always so racist about Hispanic people when my mom and his current wife are both Latinas. He went on one rant after another, and I was so sick of it that instead of staying quiet like always, I actually argued back. Because of that, my dad spent the whole weekend complaining about my bad attitude. I told my mom about all of this. I think the final nail in the coffin that finally pushed her to seek sole custody was when I told her about a rant my dad went on about the difference between men and women. I ended up memorizing and writing down everything he said and texted it to my mom. I asked her not to talk to him about it, but she was furious with him. Here are some of the things he said. 99% of women want to latch on to rich men. Nearly all women are greedy and disloyal. Men don't like successful and independent women because they're prideful and bossy. It's more important for a wife to respect her husband than it is for him to respect her. It is wrong for wives to make more than their husbands, and so much more. And then he smiled and said, "But you're the exception, pretty girl." There was so much more that happened just last weekend. Like him saying some of my guy friends don't count as real men since some of them are gay, and trying to tell me my summer volunteering opportunity in the Dominican Republic is a bad idea, since the people there are different, even though my mom's side of the family comes from there. I won't list every annoying thing he did, and I'm finally done. This was his last chance, and he blew it. I just want to say I'm pretty sure my mom is not sending me over anymore. She spent all morning looking for my birth certificate because she's wondering if she needs it for court. She wants to get me full-time, and if my dad paid child support at the moment, he owes a lot of child support, and having him contribute financially would help me so much with preparing for college. Also, I did not mention the names of my books in the other posts. I didn't share them because I didn't want a bunch of internet strangers seeing my social media tags at the back of the book, but I will share the titles with anyone who messages me directly. I will probably make another update if anything else happens. Hopefully, my next update will be after we've gone to court. You are not the jerk here. Family dynamics and parenting are complicated, and your biological father sounds like a real jerk. He is utterly and completely failing you. I understand why your mom and your stepfather are trying to help you have a relationship with your biological father. It's one of the things parents are encouraged to do in divorces because most of the time it's better for the kids. If your parents had a court order that gave your biological father visitation on the weekends, then your mom could be in trouble if you didn't go to your dad's. As for your stepfather, he can't adopt you unless your biological father's parental rights are terminated by a court, and if your biological dad fights it, it would be a mess. Your stepfather's reluctance to pursue that kind of court battle while you are still legally a minor actually makes sense, and I would strongly bet has nothing to do with his feelings for you. He shows his love for you and your place in his heart every day. You don't need him to adopt you for him to be your father. He already is. Please don't let his concerns about the legal mess trying to adopt you would be make you think he loves you any less. I'm glad your mom is going to go for both full custody and child support. Your biological father needs to be held accountable. I'm so sorry for you that you lost your biological dad. He may still be alive, but the father he was is dead. But you did nothing to cause it. He's just putting all his energy into the woman who, I'll say, meets his physical needs and leave it at that. It's an unfortunately common problem.